It's a type of coach, just like how people have, strength and conditioning coaches in the gym and cycle coaching. It's a type of coaching, however, focused on purely your mindset and your lifestyle and creating the right environment and giving you the right tools to reach your goals with your cycling coach and with your strength coach and in your family life.
So it's more about like your mental state than a physical state.
The two are super linked. But yeah, it's about improving your mental state and equipping you with the internal skills and resources to then maximize your physical state. So working with anxiety, working with confidence, so that you can train hard, race hard, recover. Yeah, so the reason I brought my Play-Doh out is this is a representation of the brain. Of course, the brain isn't purple and is bigger than this. However, a lot of people think that, our brains are quite static and things are set in stone and we try and change everything around ourselves and acquire certain things, a super fast bike or a house, whatever it might be. But actually our brains are super malleable and adaptable, and by changing our thinking, we can then change behaviors and create a life that we want. And part of the coaching is to work out how your brain works. We will explore that together and then work out how we can build synapses and get you to work and think the way that you want, and that leads you to perform and for you to be happy and successful.
So you're just reshaping someone's brain?
Essentially, we can't change the shape of the brain, but we can change the connections and the way that you think, this is how we change the brain.
So would you say it's just giving someone a set of tools to work with, like to overcome their life?
Yeah, it's tools. It's things that you should have learned in school that you didn't, or that you should have, I wish that we learned these things throughout life, but unfortunately sometimes we don't. And so it's about increasing self-awareness, which then gives you the freedom to make choices, and also building the tools. So, if you're just eating chocolate all the time, but you don't know why, you can't really change that behavior. So firstly, we learn how the brain works and why. And then we can address how to change that behavior so that you can get to your goal weight, be healthy, be happy.
So a lot of athletes out there already, they have a cycling coach. Should they get mental performance coach on top of already a cycling coach?
I absolutely think that everyone should. I think that the mind is super complicated. And, I studied psychology, I studied applied social science to equip myself with skills to understand the mind and behavior. So it works hand in hand with cycle coaching. And a cycle coach does use counseling skills, but not to the same degree. And, we look further and deeper and I give you exercises that you can apply in training with your coach that are going to make that relationship better and that process easier. And that sometimes a coach will ask you why you didn't do a session and you don't really know and you kind of feel bad. Well, we'll unpack that and work out why and set you up for success moving forward.
You're a cycling coach with the RCA and you're also a mental performance coach. So what's the major benefits you've seen working as a mental performance coach over a cycling coach?
Oh, well, a little bit about my history. I actually initially started working when I was studying in a gym, a weight loss gym, doing just the physical coaching. And I found, people came in with these weight loss goals, but if you just do that training, that's not enough. You need to address, where the calories are coming from and why. And then I worked in a rehab where I was just looking at the mind and nothing physical. And again, you can't create change if you're not adding in exercise and movement and physical health. And so what I love about my role in the RCA is that I get to do both. I get to work on that physical health, the cycling and those goals, but also on the mental aspect. And the two are related. When you feel good mentally, you typically feel good physically. When you feel good physically, you typically feel good mentally. I've worked with athletes who train really hard and are super successful in their training, but when it comes to race day, there's a lot of performance anxiety that can lead to poor sleep before the race and, gut issues before the race, and then poor decision making. They're over aroused, that's fatiguing, and then they might misread the race and make some poor calculations due to that anxiety. So they can't actually express all that training into the race because they have these blockages. And so they're an amazing athlete, but it's just not transferring until we reduce that anxiety so that they can think with clarity and make decisions on the race under that pressure.
So these blockages, like the anxiety you talk about, does everyone have that?
Everyone has anxiety, and it's a useful thing. It's what's kept us alive this long. If we weren't anxious, we wouldn't go get food. we wouldn't protect ourselves. So everyone has anxiety, but we've evolved very rapidly. We have this old part of our brain, this lizard brain, which I like to show people because I think it's helpful to see. So we have the amygdala, or the limbic system, which is this area, and you can see the little blue amygdala. That's kind of our old brain, and that's the part of our brain that detects threat, and it makes us feel scared, and it's super useful. It's kind of what has kept us alive. However, in this day and age, we don't have lions and tigers, and we're not chasing us, and we're not going to war all the time, and so this part is kind of overactive. And that's where we have the prefrontal cortex, which I'll show you as well, which is this more evolved part of our brain, which is far bigger and can help us control that fear and those anxieties. And they work together. And for some people, their amygdala, that middle part of the brain, is just a little more active. And so part of the work I do is to notice that and then to engage or activate the prefrontal lobe, that front part of the new brain, to then help bring that to a level that's optimal. Because some anxiety is good. You know, if you didn't have anxiety, you might not hit the brakes when there's a crash. But you want to have the right amount so that you're making good decisions and that you're not overwhelmed and exhausted by that feeling.
When all these athletes, they're going full gas in an event, a race, or whatever key goal event that they have, that if they use a mental performance coach, so they just have a better understanding of like what's around them, like better sense of their surroundings, and more focus on what they're actually doing.
Absolutely. Things slow down. The race will slow down, and, you know, depending on what skills you practice, you might, for you as a sprinter, you might visualize and focus on the gaps in a bunch and being calm and relaxed as you move through the gaps. And if you practice that skill, you're going to see gaps and move through them with more ease, and the bunch will feel slower for you.
So what tools would you give someone to make the bunch move slower?
Working out that arousal and whether you need to lift it, or so sometimes you might be too relaxed in a race. You need to switch off a little bit. So you might need to use some breath exercises to increase your arousal. Some music before the event. So finding some beats that get you going. Visualization can really help. Experience doing it, practicing it on and off the bike. You can visualize going through the bunch, and then you've rehearsed it. So then when you get into that situation, it's easier. Mindfulness, being able to listen and hear what's happening around you so you're not stuck in your head. Bringing your attention into the present moment. If you're in a race and you're thinking about what you're going to post on Instagram after the race, which I know people do, you're not present to what's moving and what's happening around you. So being able to become present is going to help the bunch feel slower.
So would you say that's the biggest benefit from a mental performance coach, just like having a better understanding of themselves and the surroundings?
That's a benefit, but I would say the biggest benefit is feeling like you just have a little bit more control of your life and your goals and moving in the right direction and feeling happy. A lot of people say that they wish they'd learned these skills when they were younger, because these apply in all areas of life as well, in every area that you want to perform. So a lot of people say they wish they learned this in school, they wish they learned this from their families, and they wish they saw me earlier. So I think the number one thing to take away from it is satisfaction, happiness, and being able to really perform at your best level and feeling confident that you are.
Not everyone's like a pro cyclist. Most people are doing this around their jobs and a busy life schedule, and they're just fitting in cycling like around their whole life. So people who are already pressed for time, should they be looking into mental performance coaches as well?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I think the number one reason people don't do this mental coaching or make this time is because they think they don't have time. And the people who think they don't have time are the ones who need this service the most, because you learn to manage your time. You know, we can do a time inventory, record your week, see where you're losing time and how you're spending time and how to maximize that, because you will make time if you want to. And we work out what's getting in the way and how to maximize your time. So yeah, the number one people who should get this are people who are short on time.
Would you say they're the most stressed out as well?
Usually, yes. And stress can make us less efficient with our time as well. So another reason to get mental coaching is to reduce that stress and become more effective and become more productive. And often when we slow down and stop rushing, we reduce stress and you become more productive and more effective.